What's up, War Room? Welcome back, Joe and Connor. Fresh off recording a nice long pod for your Tuesday. We're recording this Monday afternoon. It's dropping Wednesday morning. So if something newsworthy happens between now and then, like the Jets sign Nick Folk to a 10-year contract or some other transaction, it won't be referenced, but I think we'll be okay. We got a ton of questions to answer. I was just catching up in the Discord and reading a bunch of people poking fun at Jude in the general chat, which is always good for a Discord Monday. CR,
well, Jude's a good. I feel like Jude's a good sport about it. You gotta know what people can really have fun with it in the Discord. I feel like Jude falls into that bucket. The vibes have been really good. I think everybody's excited about training camp tweets are
the best.
Yeah, they feel like a little even extra though this year in a good way. I'm enjoying it.
And like in the highlights, we're having fun with it. We're only going to be doing that much more on social in the coming weeks too. So look out for that. All right. We're going to answer as many as we can here in like 25 minutes. There was a quote going around. This question's from Izzy, effectively asking if the Jets are having any type of quarterback competition this summer. It was part of an interview that Kaza did. Is there any scenario that this is a competition? My answer is no. Justin Fields is the week one starter unless he is like just not healthy, like actively very not healthy. And I mean, like he could be 90% healthy and I still think he'd start. I think the Jets have been very clear and direct. He is the guy.
Yeah, they operated that way in the spring, right? So it's as much as we all love a quarterback competition and the back and forth of it. And there is an advantage of knowing who your guy is and how you can function in terms of the reps and set up your structure of your offseason. And the Jets have a good dynamic. Tyrod is talented enough, in my opinion, to be a starting quarterback. But at this stage of his career, he's also very comfortable and confident in being the number two. And I think the Jets are going to need Tyrod at some point this year.
Yep.
But that's why you have him and why you pay him and why he's here. So, no, there's no competition. We forget very often the Jets had to convince Fields to come here.
Yeah.
And something that
Pittsburgh wanted him.
Pittsburgh wanted him back. Something that is very enticing for Fields, here was that he could be the guy, and there was enough pieces for him to work with, not only the offensive line, but Garrett Wilson here and what they believe in. They had to sell Fields on what they're trying to do. And after, I never got which is impressive. It never felt like Fields, had any kind of outburst or reaction when he was sat down when the team was 4-2. And we saw how that ended with Russell Wilson. He took it in stride. But I think he also probably looked around and said, I have a choice now of where I get to go, and I'm going to be, a little careful with it. And the Jets rolled out a good plan to get him. So, yeah, Fields is the guy all the way. But I like the structure of the Jets quarterback depth chart.
I agree. And then Fields is also a very specific kind of quarterback where there's just certain things you could plan to do with him you can't do with Tyrod. Just from a running standpoint that he's going to open up. So being able to rep that as much as possible. That's why we hope he's, fully back, which he just about is, as soon as possible. Next one from JP Waxer. What is the easiest position to find during the season via trade? My guess is wide receiver, just thinking about their positional strategy and handling of their current cap space. I mean, I'll bundle this with like how they could handle like waiver wires too. Receiver is a reasonable suggestion. Like I don't know what's easier to find right now in the NFL, a passable receiver or a passable run stuffing defensive tackle. It's probably a receiver who could play 15 snaps a game and catch a couple passes if he absolutely has to. I don't know how many Al Woods are still floating around out there right now that are, 325, 335 pounds and could play first and second down effectively. Is there any other positions that jump off the page to you?
Well, I mean, not that the Jets need, right? They don't need a running back. You could always find good running backs cut after summer. Our guy Izzy Abanikanda has been, jumping around teams here.
Special, baby.
You could get wide receiver depth. I would agree. And look at free agency right now. There's still veterans out there that we don't know how much they have left in the tank, but we know they could play to an extent. So it is probably wide receiver just in terms of finding a guy that you can, feasibly fit onto your depth chart of 5 or 6 players where, defensive line, which is kind of going back to the emphasis of why taking advantage of this draft class was so important. It comes and goes in waves. During the draft, I've had a couple bad years where it's like, man, D tackle is thin really, really thin. Then you have guys like Calais Campbell that hang around the league for 15 plus years. It's remarkable, but there's not many of those. And then you get a class like this year where it was very deep at defensive tackle. So you got to kind of catch the waves and take advantage of that, and which I thought the Jets could have done a better job of. But yeah, I think we've been a little fooled because John Franklin Myers was such a great waiver claim. But typically,
need that dude back like so bad. It's like the one thing they need on their roster right now.
Yeah,
among a couple other.
I'm not very confident in just finding a defensive tackle that would be a plus player for 15 snaps a game.
All right, next one from Shogun. It's 3rd and 8, a 500 record and possible playoff appearance to break the drought is on the line. 4 wide set, Garrett is covered, QB run isn't an option, and you can only make a pass to Corley or Lazard. Who would you choose?
Lazard.
I think it has to be Lazard.
It's not even close.
I don't think it's close. Like as much as we like
question.
to rib on Lazard, like for the soccer, and I actually don't know if he'll make the team either. Like
he caught the Hail Mary.
He caught like the game winning. Did he catch a pass that sent the Packers like the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship game? Like
he's had some. He's had big catches before at the NFL level, and there's a reason why he's a very, very rich man. As much as it was a bad signing, it hasn't worked. He's all of that. But Lazard is 6'4".
Yeah, he's at least like play a little basketball and box somebody out, maybe draw a penalty.
Yeah, it's a very funny question. It's not even close. It's Lazard.
Yeah. All right, Lazard, you got your praise today on War Room. I bet you weren't expecting that. Rank the likelihood of the Jets bringing in a veteran at these positions: kicker, punter, defensive tackle, wide receiver, and edge. Well,
kicker, number
one. By the time you're watching this, they may have already signed a kicker. I would probably say edge is number 2, just looking at the names that are out there. And I feel like there's more to pick from than D tackle. Could they do a Clowney? Could they do a Judon? Could they do a Zadarius Smith? There's a couple other ones out there. Then probably D tackle, then receiver, then punter. I would guess tied for last. I feel like they'll go defensive addition first before they start tacking on to the offense. I think they just want to incorporate Mason Taylor and their running backs a ton. That's how I'd see it.
That's the feeling.
There's no names at D tackle. I feel they're just going to like roll with Peyton Page, who's been okay, and Cowart and Nandi and Telefe and Leonard. It's exhausting.
Like I'm glad the Jets have had mostly positive PR for the way camp has gone, but it's something that's just in the back of my head where I'm like, you can only rely on Quinnen for so much. And even with the talent that they have in some of the edge spots, like it seems like they like Watts enough.
Watts seems to be off to a good start.
But that's fine. But you need 2 to 3 defensive tackles after Quinnen that can play.
Yeah.
And, I think Leonard Taylor fits one of those roles because he's very pass rush heavy. But my take is, like, for better or for worse, I think they like Cowart.
Yep. They do.
Like they're treating Cowart.
Didn't their D-line coach them previously? And I think advocated to bring him over.
There's clearly they are viewing Cowart with a role, and I think they're viewing Nadi with a role. If how those guys play is another question. But just because you don't like how something looks on paper doesn't mean that the team is thinking like we need to change this. I feel like the Jets at D-tackle, they have a large group of guys that don't really have a great ceiling, but they feel like they can coach them enough to get a floor.
I think Cowart is your Reynolds of the defense. I think
that's a really good way of putting it.
The position coach has coached him before. He's comfortable with him, thinks he can get more out of him next to Quinnen Williams. Much like Engstrand is like, I know this guy, I trust this guy. I don't need this role to do too much around Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, Mason Taylor. And it does seem like Cowart actually is even higher than Nandi on the depth chart, which I wouldn't have guessed based on their history, but it seems like the first snap of the season will be Quinnen and Cowart, and then they'll rotate from there, for better or worse.
Get your Cowart jerseys.
Your Cowart jerseys. Your double question here from Nick from Astoria. 1 week into camp, what would you guess the percentage split at running back carries will be with an Izzy follow-up? How soon until Braylon Allen is RB1? Now, this is off. Braylon Allen had like a ridiculous touchdown run today where they had like the read option with Fields, and you see this dude running who looks like Derrick Henry, and you're like, holy shit, why isn't this guy in the field every play? I remind people that he looked like that at times last year.
Yeah.
And would be very quiet at times. I think 1A, 1B is probably not a stretch to something it could get to. I still think Breece is going to have the most touches by a good amount. I look at it holistically as touches, including
You have to.
carries and targets. And I think Brees will be second on the team in targets. I think he'll be first on the team in carries. If we're talking purely carries, I would guess it's like 60, 30, 10, 60, 25, 15, maybe between the top three, something
I'd
like
go
that.
a little close. I think it's a little closer.
So like 50, 40, 50,
50,
30,
40,
20.
50, 40, 10.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
a true 1A, 1B then.
But that's carries.
Yeah, that's carries.
Once again, Brees catching the ball matters so much to this offense. So Brees should catch 5 passes every week.
Yes.
So if you go by touches, well, then it looks a little different because I know he's had some moments already in camp, but Braylon Allen, it's not the strength of his game. Isaiah Davis can catch the ball.
Yep.
But I think they look at Braylon Allen and just really want him to be every bit of David Montgomery in the offense. But I think because of how limited they are a pass catcher, Brees he needs to have that kind of role. So
yeah, we continue to be bullish on Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis being very active parts of this offense. As runners, as receivers, I think the Jets want to be a running back first offense, and they want to have Fields as part of that as a lead runner on their team, and that makes sense with their depth chart. All right, this one from David. Connor, it's early days. Are you feeling any better about the safety room with some of the positive comments on Malachi Moore, Jarius Monroe, and Cisco? We talked a little safety on the pod about the floor increasing. Before I throw it to you, just guys who can tackle, man. You're a safety. It's the simplest, most 101 thing in football. You are a safety. You are there as the last line of defense. You have to be able to tackle and stop 7-yard runs from turning into 37-yard runs, and a hitch route that should be a 4-yard gain from turning into a 24-yard gain. So for me, and I think a lot of people understandably feel this way because we've all had our fill of Tony Adams, if Malachi Moore is anywhere near a tie to him in camp, why wouldn't you start him with Cisco? Just because of he's a draft pick. But how do you feel about the room overall? Who do you think they keep in the secondary? I'll umbrella this out. Like, what is that final secondary room on the 53?
Yeah, this was the one we had kind of a little back and forth on because it does feel very up in the air. Do I feel better about the safety room? It's a little bit more of the same. I know I kind of crushed the day 3 draft for the Jets. I loved the Moore pick. That was the one pick where I was like, this makes a ton of sense. He's a very intelligent, reliable back-end presence. As he's got some ball skills even. So I would like to see Moore start as early as possible over Adams. The one thing I'm a little bit more positive about right now is it feels like Monroe can be a physical special team kind of presence or that third safety. Not right away, but can he develop? This was an undrafted guy from last year. So can he develop into that? I mean, I don't really have a ton of expectations for Jalen Simpson. Tony Adams, it's been a little rough at times here. They're going to play Stevens at corner. The back end of the corner depth chart is just where it gets so interesting because you like Chris Boyd for special teams. Obviously, Sauce, Michael Carter, Stevens, and Zaire Thomas are locks. Feels like Isaiah Oliver can do a lot of different things for you as this backup slot. It's kind of a safety hybrid. But, Bernard Converse and Stiggers are young players that are trending the right way.
Really important preseasons for those two.
It really is. Stiggers had he caused a fumble against Arian Smith, I believe, today, which is like, I was like, here, I'm like clapping in my living room, which I'm just kidding. But it was, I really want to see him make plays because when you watch the tape of him up in the CFL before he got drafted, he was that playmaking kind of corner that would come up and hit. And I honestly think they should have just moved him to safety, but it's a whole nother conversation. So yeah, it's a really, really competitive corner group.
Underdog Fantasy preseason pickums are here. We don't just have the best ball drafts, which you still should be doing with promo code Badlands for a deposit match, but some preseason pickums. It's early CR, and I'll ask you this again before Jets Packers, but give me one Jets preseason pick'em that you have in the back of your mind that you're going to be excited about, that you'd like to see out there.
Oh man, I feel like our guy Tyler Johnson is just going to be a receptions machine.
Over 4.5.
I'll be taking any over receptions I can find on him. Just chewing it up in the second, third. I don't think the fourth quarter. I think he's too good for that. Yeah. But the second and third quarter is his time.
Shout out Tyler Johnson, getting a lot of Badlands love. Underdog. Use promo code Badlands today.